Washington Pod presents EARL Nightingale.
Have you ever thought about the fact that the people who seem to do so well in the world are the people who manage to overcome the fear of laughter, of ridicule? Anytime you attempt something in which you risk failure, you run the risk of having people laugh at you. Anytime you try something new, you run the same risk. A college professor worked many years on an invention. He tramped all over New England trying to interest capital in his device for making the human voice travel along a wire. The people laughed at him. It was, of course, plumb idiotic, they said, to suppose that the human voice could be carried along a wire and be heard for many miles, or even for a single mile. But our old friend Alexander Graham Bell could not be laughed out of it, and every time you pick up your telephone, you salute the man who stayed on course despite the laughter. Millions of people laughing in derision could not hurt us an iota, but we stand in mortal terror of it. Men and women who can prove themselves heroes in great crises tremble before derision. It's a strange quirk of human nature, and it's cost a great deal. It's changed the course of history of the world. Sometimes the price of laughter has meant the slamming of the door to fame and fortune, even immortality. Elias Howe invented the sewing machine, but it nearly rusted away before the American women stopped laughing about it and could be persuaded to make use of it. With their sewing done so quickly, they argued, what would they ever do with all their spare time? So a biographer painted a tragic picture. The man who had done more than any other to lighten the work of women was forced to borrow a suit of clothes on an occasion of a public appearance. Men are as bad as women when it comes to resisting new ideas. The typewriter had been a demonstrated success for years before businessmen could be persuaded to buy it. How could anyone have enough letters to write, they argued, to justify the investment of $100 in a writing machine? By the way, did you know that the first author to submit a typewritten book manuscript to his publisher was Mark Twain? Wouldn't you know it? Other inventions have had similar battles. Here's an extract from a notebook of Robert Fulton, who invented the steamship, who changed ships forever from sail to steam on the oceans of the world. He wrote, as I had occasion daily to pass to and from the shipyard where my boat was in progress, I often loitered near the groups of strangers and heard various remarks as to the object of this new vehicle. The language was uniformly that of scorn, sneer, or ridicule. The loud laugh often rose at my expense. The dry jest, the wise calculations of losses or expenditures, the dull repetition of Fulton's folly. Never did a single encouraging remark, a bright hope, a warm wish cross my path. Not once. The moral to all this is pretty clear. If we're to learn anything from history, and if we're to amount to much out of the ordinary, we have to rise above the fear of laughter, and it's not too difficult when you consider who's doing the laughing. Pythagoras was misunderstood, and Socrates was misunderstood, and Jesus was misunderstood, and Luther, and Copernicus, and Galileo, and Newton, and every pure and wise spirit that ever took flesh. To be great is to be misunderstood. So said Emerson.